is all moving happily. So welcome. Welcome to our market update. I'm talking about the current real estate environment and predictions. And Marcus, we're ready to go.
Over to me. I was wondering if I could get up and running on Facebook. Let's fire off with the market update. So you're going to tell them about the team
So we're here. My name's Danny Fleming and this is Marcus Collins. We're married, just in case. So if I start yelling at him, that's okay.
We'll stick with YouTube.
But we have the MA Properties online team. That's who we are, and we do monthly seminars. Normally they're in person. The last 2 or 3 months or so, obviously we've been doing them online since in-person seminars just aren't a thing that is happening these days. So we want to let you know what's happening. This is our team with our dog. So. The agenda tonight is, it comprises, first off, smart decisions. This is so important. This is understanding what's going on with the stats in the market. And then what does selling in 2020 look like? What does then buying in 2020 look like? And what do we mean by virtual buying and selling? But before we get into smart decisions, it's really important to talk about what is actually going on at the moment. Now, Marcus and we were sort of trying to figure out what do we talk about in here, but it's really, really obvious. Obviously, there's a global recession going on with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and in about the last 2 weeks, we've had the Black Lives Matter movement happening, which, look, to us, you have to sort of make a statement here. We think that this is an amazing thing that's going on, and hopefully this is going to make some change, and maybe bring it to people's awareness. What we were delighted with is last week there was a vigil for George Floyd, and I can't tell you how many, I've never seen as many people down in the Lexington town centre as we saw that evening. This is partway through. The vigil started at 6 o'clock, and at 6:30 all of the bells of all of the organisations around the religious institutions pealed, and everyone got down on a knee for 8 minutes and 50 odd seconds. That was really powerful. All the cars driving, but it needs to happen. This needs to happen. This is so important. So we just wanted to acknowledge that hopefully this is going to make a difference moving forward. It needs to. We all need to be talking about this and really making it part of our part of what we do and what we think. So, Marcus, over to you. I've done enough talking for the minute. I'll talk a little bit later.
Now it's my turn, is it? Okie doke. So, Lexington market summary. Some of this is a retrospective look at 2019, but trust me, we will get on to 2020 and we'll get on to the last couple of months very quickly. But as you can see, at the end of 2019, average sale price or median sale price in Lexington about 1.2 million. That's about a 66% rise since the prior peak. So, a very substantial rise in terms of the price that we see. Interesting to look, I think, at the inventory levels here. The peak you can see, just about see my cursor probably. This is 2019. As you can see, it was substantially more than 18 or 17. We saw a lot of additional homes coming on the market in that 2019 timeframe. We were heading in the same direction in 2020. We had a mild winter. It seemed like a long time ago. We had a mild winter, like a very long time ago, actually, as it turns out. But we were heading very much in the same direction. And what was happening in 19 was that we had historically seen, this is the home sales for the last decade. And you can see 2015 was the peak of home sales, and then they declined in 17, 18, 19, sorry, 16, 17, 18, and they leveled off in 2019. Now, this is home sales. What's interesting to look at is what was happening in terms of the number of listings. This is what this graph shows. The blue bars are the number of sales. The orange line is the number of listings. And as you can see, in that 18-19 time frame, sorry, my cursor is really hard to see. In this, as you see here, the number of listings is increasing, yet the number of sales is declining and or static. And that's what's caused that excess inventory to hit the market. Specifically in 2019, a lot more listings coming on the market, but static number of sales. In terms of the median price, this is the median price. As you can see, it got up to 1.2 million. But there's a little bit of a falsehood in this, in that if you look below the numbers, we had a larger number of more expensive homes come on the market, or sell, excuse me, in 2019 than we saw in 2018. So in terms of true price appreciation, relatively static in that really 17, 18 and 19. Let's say that slight increase in the median price, a little bit of an anomaly caused primarily by a larger number of more expensive homes coming on the market and skewing it slightly. So that's what's happening with the median price. So what's going on here? Well, this is an interesting graph. It's from 2015, but it shows you how many people are in each age bracket, so kind of demographics. There's two areas which are really important. The higher one, the older people, if you will, are the downsizers. They're the baby boomers, children born just after World War II. Those are the downsizers. Now, the downsizers are now looking at their home thinking, I want to move to a smaller home, potentially a cheaper home. And so those buyers are in the market. The lower band here, the lower band is the first-time home buyers. And there are a lot of first-time home buyers, the so-called millennials. And so what we're finding now, for example, in some of the more affordable homes, Burlington, actually today, we had a home on the market this weekend in Burlington, reasonably priced, mid-400s, 20 offers on that home. That's the first-time home buyers coming into the market, as well as some of the downsizers. I'll have more to say about that as we move forward. But that's what's driving the market, for example, in Burlington, in Arlington. The effect in Lexington is that the downsizers are looking to sell their home. They've been aging in place, they've been staying where they are, they've been thinking, falsely in my opinion, that they're getting lots of price appreciation in the town. It's not been as good as many people think. And what that means is they're now, as they begin to see what's happening moving forward, remember we were doing this prediction in 2019, as we were looking forward to 2020 and the uncertainty that we saw in 2020, that's when we saw the downsizers coming into the market. So we saw a lot more expensive homes coming on the market in Lexington because those downsizers were looking to move forward. And primarily it's driven by, just as I said in the 2019 market review, it's really when we wrote this and when we were looking at the early part of the year and 2019, we were looking at economic uncertainty in 2020. We have an election, we still do, in November. Now, of course, we have COVID that kicks in. And so all of that economic uncertainty was preying on people's minds in 2019, which gave them the thought that perhaps we're going to some kind of correction. Therefore, I need to put my home on the market. So that's really what caused that increase in inventory. And if you look at what we said in 2020 in terms of our predictions for 2020, remember I wrote this in January, so it didn't really take into account at all what's happening with COVID. Traditionally in 16 through 18, sellers in this market were struggling to find their next home. They were having to compete with first-time home buyers. As 19 came in, so those downsizers perhaps became a little less choosy in terms of what they were looking for, thinking that there's uncertainty coming in the economy. Perhaps I should put my home on the market today instead of waiting. Now's the peak of the market. And so they brought their homes on the market in 2019. And that's when we saw a large increase, I should say, in terms of the number of inventory in 2019. The buyers, unfortunately, were relatively static. Excess inventory was not absorbed by the buyers in Lexington, and so that's why inventory levels rose. And so the prediction for 2020 was that the market, we were tending to a more balanced market. That is, equal between buyers and sellers. Historically been something of a seller's market. That's shifting now towards a more balanced market. The economic uncertainty is clearly real now. It's kind of moved on perhaps a little bit from the economic uncertainty we saw to a much more serious economic uncertainty, as well as now as driven by COVID. Mortgage interest rates really don't factor into this, but the key thing that we predicted in for 2020 was that price appreciation would remain static. So that was the predictions for 2020. Let's kind of move this forward now and think about what's happening this year. I want to have a look at the listings we saw in 2019 versus 2020. Because I'm really trying to get a handle on when back to normal is going to happen. What's happened, much of it previously, when are we going to get back to normal? And as this graph shows, the top graph is the number of tests being done. The orange graph below it is the number of confirmed cases, and also the number of deaths from COVID, shows that we are very much easing back down to a level that many people, not all, but many people find acceptable in terms of risk. And so we are beginning to get back to normal, but we did have a period where clearly that wasn't the case. And so if we look at this graph where the blue bars are the number of listings in 2019, the orange bars are the number of listings in 2020. So January about the same, February a little bit more in 2020. Remember, we had a rather mild winter, and so a few people brought their home on the market earlier than they traditionally had planned. Early March was fine, but then everything happened. Interestingly, the stock market predated this. We really saw the impact of this in that second half of March and then continuing into April. You can see that the orange bar is much lower than the blue bar. So we had a lot of inventory that we anticipated was going to come on the market, but it didn't. Now as we move forward, that's kind of second half of March, April. Once we came into May, first half of May, we saw a slight reduction to what we would have expected, but the second half of May, we're at about the same level. It kind of depends on how many homes you think will not come on the market, how many sellers will delay till 2021, but we're somewhere between 50 to 70 homes behind where we'd expect to be at this time of the year. And so, as you look at the projections, you can see that May was quite buoyant. June has got way more homes than we would ordinarily expect. Now, herein lies the challenge, if you will, in that now we have a lot of inventory coming on the market. Remember what we said, our predictions for 2020 are something of a balanced market. And so we can see a lot of inventory coming on the market in that June timeframe. The question is, will that actually be absorbed? Are there enough buyers in the market for that actually to absorb all those numbers? Our predictions are not, and I'll talk a little bit more about the numbers in a moment. Interesting to look at April and May's listings because that was really, an interesting time in that April was very low in terms of the number of listings. May was back to where we would have historically or seasonably expected, I guess. Quite interesting to look at the numbers.
Really much so. Sorry, I'm concentrating again now.
You were emailing everybody to say we're on YouTube. Yeah, I figured you were doing that.
Because I was trying to put it on Facebook.
I
was trying to put it on Facebook, and every time I put it on Facebook, Facebook got rid of it because I think I was promoting YouTube. So I don't know what was going on.
Is that what they were doing?
I don't know. It wasn't posting. So I figured I'm going to email people that had registered. We're on YouTube with a link.
Cool. So. Let me put you out of the way. I don't need you. I want to bring up my PowerPoint so I can see exactly what I'm doing. Here we go. Yep. Right, so back to April and May. Very interesting. 89 listings in April and May. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit less than we would ordinarily have expected.
And let's explain. You were pulling these stats. You were pulling these stats because we had a question from a seller who was thinking about coming on the market, and he said, well, what's happening in the market? Are things really, really bad, or is it an okay time to come on? So we decided, well, we're the stats people. We have data. Let's pull some data and figure out what's going on, statistically.
So statistically,
yes,
50% of those homes that listed in April and May went under agreement. almost none have sold just because of the elapsed time between going under agreement and actually selling, about six weeks or 6 to 8 weeks. Based on the days to offer, we do have that information, how long it took that home actually to get a successful offer. We'd anticipate that about 80% of those homes will sell for over the asking price. So 80% of the 43 that went under agreement will sell for over the asking price. The median price of those, $1.1 million. Now, let's turn our attention to the 45 unsold homes. The median price of those, about $1.8 million. So clearly much higher, not quite double the median price, but certainly a lot higher than those that went under agreement. So we are seeing the first-time home buyers at the lower price points being very buoyant in this market. What I think we're seeing is buyers of $1.5 million homes may have a home to sell, and so are not able to come into the market quite yet. What we're also seeing, though, is a large number of sellers being unrealistic in terms of what their price expectation is. Linking back to what I said in the market review, I have to say I don't think they read it. In that, we said we are tending to a balanced market. The price appreciation we saw in 2018 was a factor of a skew in the distribution, not true price appreciation. That's been lost on a large number of sellers, and so we're seeing a number of homes on the market grossly overpriced for the environment. First of all, for the environment we're in, but also, even if we weren't in this environment, they're overpriced. So there are definitely some unrealistic price expectations on sellers, and those homes are not selling. Interesting.
But priced realistically,
They're
going and they're going really, really well.
Right.
And there's a lot of energy in the market.
That's true. The other thing we're seeing is quite interesting. We were watching some national statistics around virtual showings, the kind of products that people are adding to listings, virtual tours, videos, and so on. A large number of listings are having those. In fact, we are seeing our floor plans, which are done as part of the 3D process, taking longer to come back now because so many people are doing those kind of virtual showings, virtual assets, digital assets. Thank you. What we're seeing in Lexington, though, disappointingly, I have to say, is that many of the realtors are reverting to business as usual. It's not uncommon to see homes $2-3 million with only 30 photographs on there. Question is, does that matter? We have more to say about that in a minute, but it does matter. And it matters because a large number of buyers are just not comfortable going into a home just to see what it looks like. They want validation before they go into the home that their journey, perhaps with some risks to it, is going to be worthwhile. There's also, I think, an expectation being drawn up here in terms of what's expected of a home that comes on the market. And very many homes are just not seeing that today. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that in those 45 homes that are unsold. Sure, the median price is higher, but still many of those homes are just not getting the virtual marketing that they need, and that the market is expecting, and the rest of the country is in many respects actually beginning to provide. To
deliver. And I mean, we mentioned it a little bit further along with the marketing, but we're seeing an absolute direct correlation between the number of people that are viewing the 3D tour, and we know the numbers, we know approximately the numbers that we should be expecting. There's a direct correlation between the people who, the number of 3D tours that we being viewed and the number of private showings. And there's also a completely direct correlation between the number of private showings on a home and offers. So those, the 3D, the digital assets are so important to get the buyers to determine that, yeah, this house it meets all of the criteria I want. I like the floor plan, I like the layout, I like the condition that I see. Let's go see it in person. And if you don't have that, a lot of people, I mean, we're working with buyers all the time. And I had someone just 3 weeks ago who asked, is there a 3D tour or a video or anything like this of this home? Because there was only 30 odd photos. And no, there wasn't. Well, we don't want to go, we don't want to see it. We're not interested in the home. Now, actually, in that scenario, I went in and did a Zoom call with them while walking through the home so that they could see, okay, this home does meet our criteria, but they had written it off. They weren't even going to bother, as going and seeing it until I actually did the Zoom call in there to create that virtual tour for them. So
Right.
this is key. If a seller's, it's absolutely key.
So, you've seen this graph before, if you watched last month's anyway. What's happening as we now come into that kind of May, June time frame here, the number of private showings beginning to tick up as buyers. I think that graph is perhaps not sharp enough. I think we're seeing it should be much sharper than this. We're also seeing the yellow line, that is the open houses, begin to become more prevalent. They're not the open houses of old. There is still the issue
Yellow? That's a red line.
That's what I said.
You said yellow. Sorry,
did I?
I'm
Okay.
looking for the
Sorry,
yellow
it's
line.
red.
Where's
It's
the
red.
yellow
It's
line?
red. Sorry, yeah, it's red.
Okay.
Even I know it's
He's
red.
not colourblind.
No, it's red. The red line. It's the yellow line. There we go. It's a red line. The red line is the number of open houses. Now they're not the open houses that we have of old, where you can just turn up and do whatever you need to do. Just turn up and expect to walk around the home and have 10, 20, 30, 40 groups through in a 2-hour open house. Those days are gone, at least for now anyway. Mm-hmm. But there is that those open houses are coming in, and those open houses are really meeting the demand of buyers wanting to see homes. Once you hold an open house, in fact, we held a number of virtual open houses. The challenge we had is that people physically turned up. And that wasn't what we were there for. There was only myself or Danny were there to do it. We really didn't have the capability to show people around. So we're beginning to trial open houses now, seeing what format works. What will happen, I'm sure, is that as buyers become much more confident, so we'll begin to see more and more people coming to those open houses, and we'll be able to get more and more people in those open houses as now we hit phase 2.
Having said that, we did 3 physical open houses last weekend, and we only got 2 people at one home and 4 people at the other 2 homes. So open houses are absolutely not where they were. The primary way buyers are viewing homes is looking at the virtual assets that are on there, and then if they meet their needs, they're making private showings. That's the way that they're doing. And the private showings, I would have ramped that up a little higher when things turned, and we saw the market turning, the buyer confidence increasing. We started seeing that in the beginning of May. So we started quickly bringing on homes on the market of homes that we knew our sellers wanted to sell, and we were just waiting until we started seeing buyer confidence returning, and then we've been bringing them on. And while I was quickly typing, did you mention that in Burlington we had 20 offers on a home?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
The buyers are out there, and they're seeing the homes privately through private showings, not open houses.
Big question, I think, now arises over U versus V. I've shown this graph before, this diagram before, lots of different scenarios, and it's interesting to see Massachusetts, definitely the number of cases beginning to decline, but you were telling me this morning that you listed probably...
There were 14 states. There were 14 states around the country where they've had the highest number of COVID-related, tested positive people in the last week. It's the highest they've ever seen, and that's dramatic. I mean, we're talking about California was one of them, Florida was another, the Carolinas. There's 14 states around that are having the highest rates of COVID infections, and they were saying with that this isn't related to the demonstrations that have been happening because it's happening too quickly. That's still to come.
So there is a question. What happens around for the economy in general? Clearly, many first-time home buyers are coming back into the market, but I do think that we will begin to see the impact of this, be it small businesses. We were just looking just today as we look at office space. For ourselves, there is a lot of office space available in the area. Now, is that a consequence of just too much office space being built, or is that a consequence of the recession and what we see moving forward? Hard to know at this point, I think, but we'll see. A lot of people, being able to work from home, but clearly not everybody's able to work from home. So, as I say, will all of those small businesses actually survive? There is, I think, a question on there. So there is, in my mind anyway, a lot of uncertainty. I think in some respects, Massachusetts is a little bit immune to perhaps the wider implications. Perhaps we got it right at the beginning. Perhaps our economy is more buoyant. But I do think that we should be very cautious if we think that the economy is going to come roaring back, very quickly. That doesn't seem to be the case. We should be cautious in terms of thinking that.
Yeah.
In terms of lending, interest rates are low, although we are finding some commentary that banks are beginning to tighten their lending. Thinking that if there's going to be something of a downturn in the housing market, they clearly don't want to be exposed to that. If the number of unemployed, the number of people furloughed is actually going to remain at a relatively high level, perhaps increase in some cases, that's why the banks are becoming just that little bit more tight in terms of their lending. They're certainly lending, that's for sure. Process is working well, but there is some kind of tightening that's happening. Mm-hmm. If we turn ourselves to the buyers in this market, interestingly, the stock market crash was in mid-February, and that did affect some higher priced homes. We had the situation where a number of homes in that kind of mid to high 1 million mark, buyers were affected by the stock market crash, saw their net worth declining, therefore they would feel confident enough to buy those more expensive homes. The lockdown and the wider impact of COVID kicked in, as I showed you with the number of listings, in mid-March. So that's kind of the what we saw in terms of the buyers. We also saw, and are to some extent seeing as well, home inspections to come back. Perhaps in some cases as a mechanism to reduce that final price, but they're coming back in their usual difficult negotiation forms. So that's kind of where we are with the buyers.
And it's fair to say, from mid-February to now, there's been a lot of churn in the market. Very, very different market, understandably, to what we've had in the years gone past. So part of what we're doing is dynamically, we're having to respond to things as they occur quickly, like we did with this seminar.
It's called pivot. Apparently the buzzword is pivot, Danny. Sort of pivoting, apparently. I have no idea why that's the latest buzzword, but that was more of a panic, not really a pivot when we came up here, but there we go.
Software challenges, but we're having to respond. This is what life is these days, and this is,
yes.
You have to go with the flow and
this wouldn't have happened if we were sat in a conference room giving it to some live people, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Yep.
Kind of interesting in terms of the two different perspectives we're seeing here. Buyers thinking, well, maybe I should put it off until 2021. Perhaps prices may be lower. But then in terms of sellers,
I can speak to a seller and a seller sort of saying, well, I think I should sell now because I think the prices will be lower in 2021. And then an hour later, I'll be talking to another seller who's saying, oh, I think maybe I should delay until 2021 because the prices will be higher. So you're getting completely opposite views. And this is part of the uncertainty in the market. At the moment, we are seeing a huge amount of energy in the market.
Certainly at the lower price points.
The lower price points, but we're also seeing buyers out at the high price points too. They are going under agreement. There are buyers out there at those higher price points. So it's not just the lower price points. Obviously, they have
more choice at the higher price points. That's for sure.
Yeah,
they definitely have more price. So that was kind of the stats and with just a kind of hint in terms of what buyers will have more to say about the buyer market in a minute. But I thought now we turn our attention to what does selling in 2020 look like. And specifically the kind of when and the how.
Yeah, and the when is...
And I'm going to go get a drink if you let me. Because I can do it now. Because you're going to talk down there. I'm going to get a drink. I'll be right back.
He's not here. Yeah, okay, I can deal with this. So again, when we're talking about selling, we made mention in the last couple of online seminars that we've done over the last couple of months that we would have a really good handle on when the market was going to be bouncing back because of the fact that we had a couple of vacant homes on the market. So we would know as soon as the buyer confidence returned. And we would know because there's seven agents in our team, and we knew that when the buyers started wanting to get out and look at homes coming on the market, then we'd know about that. Now, what we anticipate, and we let all of our sellers who were still planning on coming on the market, we let them know that we would let them know when we should quickly come on. And again, it was a quick come on. Because what we were trying to recreate is, we always say that the beginning of the spring market, from when the winter breaks and we get a couple of fine weekends where there's no snowstorms predicted, all of this type of thing, that is an amazing time for a seller to come on the market. Because if you think of it from the perspective of buyers, they're spending their time over winter, they're hibernating. They're thinking about going to be buying this year, that they want to buy here and they want to do this, and it's time to move. So as soon as winter starts breaking, those buyers are out looking. So they're going to check it out, going to check out the homes that are on the market. Well, typically in the very, very early part of the spring market, there's not much inventory. So the energy around the homes that are coming on the market then is huge. And we get, statistically, we get a higher sale price to list price ratio in those homes that come on early in the market. What we were trying to do, and what we did do, is because inventory dropped like a stone. You saw this in some of the charts that we had before about, from mid-March, all of April, we really didn't have many homes coming on the market. As soon as we started seeing buyer activity increasing, we wanted to get our homes on the market quickly to recreate that type of dynamic that occurs at the beginning of the spring market. And it worked well. But what you can see is that, buyer confidence has returned now. So what does that mean? How are we doing this? So in general, we put that there's certain characteristics that are different. In general, there are no open houses, no physical open houses. There's not, as I said before, we trialed a couple last weekend. We didn't see much activity because most of the serious buyers, because remember, it's the serious buyers that we're interested in. Sure, you get a lot of neighbors dropping in, in a normal open house. When a home first comes on the market, you get a lot of neighbors coming in. You get a lot of buyers who are thinking about buying, but not right now, but they're thinking about buying, in 3 to 4 months' time. And you get the serious buyers. Well, what's happening now with no open houses, we are getting the serious buyers who are the ones that are making the physical showing requests. So we've dropped off the thinking about buying buyers, and the neighbours, the looky-loos, they're not happening. We're not doing physical feature sheets at the moment. We're doing virtual feature sheets. That's because we found in the last open houses, physical open houses we did, I think was the 3rd week in March, maybe the 2nd week in March.
2nd or 3rd, yes. We had a couple in Arlington, didn't we?
Yeah, and we were finding there that buyers weren't even wanting to touch our feature sheets, the physical feature sheets. No, I can catch COVID off that. I'm not going to even grab it. So we haven't been doing physical feature sheets for a while. They're virtual. All of the marketing that we do is all virtual. The 3D tour, the video, the website, we're doing the virtual feature sheets, we're doing virtual open houses. So that's common through what we're doing. We also recommend completing a seller's disclosure to our sellers. Now, Massachusetts is a voluntary disclosure state. You don't need to disclose. Typically, we find maybe 50% of sellers do, 50% don't. Actually, probably it's more like 30 to 40% do, 60 to 70% don't. We are starting to recommend to our sellers that perhaps it would be a good idea to do a seller's disclosure, because in this type of environment, you're seeing a lot of physical showings where they might only come to see the home once, maybe a second time, but they're not coming with an inspector, they're not coming with their friends, they're not, they're not coming with a contractor, things like that, to actually check out the home in more detail. So having a seller's disclosure gives the buyers a little bit more warm and fuzzies than normal. So as we mentioned before, the buyer's behavior is, these days, it's viewing the home virtually with all the digital assets that are there, and then if the home meets their needs, then they make a private showing. So that's generally what we've been doing with homes. Now, during the lockdown, we probably don't need to, probably the difference here is to show how things have progressed. During the lockdown, this is pretty well April, because things started easing, and there wasn't, I should mention, we were waiting to see when the buyer confidence returned, because there was no correlation between the stay-at-home advisory being enacted and the buyers stopping coming to see homes. And because of that, we were anticipating that there wouldn't be a correlation between the buyers wanting to get out and looking at homes being related to the lockdown easing, and that is what actually happened. So we wanted to characterize the differences between these. But preparation for vacant homes. Contractors were desperate to get into vacant homes because their whole income source of doing work for occupied homes, it just basically stopped. We were able to fully stage any vacant home. Our marketing, again, we mentioned it's all virtual. The showings, they were a little bit more restricted, but there was a limited number of people. We didn't have any overlapping showings, and closings are all virtual. Now, if an occupied home during that lockdown, the difference was preparation. The contractors were just unwilling to go into occupied homes, as were the sellers. The sellers didn't really want contractors coming in the home as well. So preparation took a bit of a hit there. Our staging, we weren't physically going into occupied homes to stage homes. We were doing soft furnishings. So we would do a virtual staging consultation, and then we'd provide soft furnishings, leave them in big bags at the door, and then the sellers could take them in when they were comfortable. The showings were very, very restricted. In fact, some towns totally disallowed any showings happening of occupied homes whatsoever. Now, when we get into the buyer confidence returns, which is where we are now having said this, if we hit, let's touch wood, hopefully we will not have a surge, another really serious iteration of this. But at the moment we are in the buyer confidence returns phase, and we're going to continue assuming we're in this phase unless things dramatically change. Contractors, they're willing to be in vacant homes. That hasn't changed. Full staging hasn't changed. The showings have become less restricted. But the difference has been with the occupied homes. Contractors are beginning to be comfortable going into homes. I'm going in with some buyers to a home on Thursday and bringing a couple of contractors, and the sellers who live there, they're quite comfortable with us doing that, which is great. Staging, we're beginning to again get out and physically stage homes of occupied homes. So that's a good thing, because one of the 5 keys that we talk about is preparation. It's getting the buyers excited and having that positive visceral feel when a buyer walks in the door. That's so important, and staging plays a large part with that. And the showings, they're progressively becoming less and less restricted. So again, this is characterizing the iteration of where we are, and here's a summary of the things that we talked about. We're the lockdown phase for a vacant home, where we're talking about lockdown and buyer confidence returns, we're not seeing that much of a difference. The difference between the two phases was in occupied homes, and we're now in this phase here. So we're starting to feel a lot more comfortable being in a normal market again. Sure, there's some changes, but it's becoming more normal as each week goes by.
Thinking back to the listings that we talked about previously, the difference between 2019 and 2020, what looks like has happened is many of the homes that have came on in May, for example, some in April, those predominantly were the unoccupied homes. Now as we come to June, then there's the question now, will just as this matrix shows, this is when we expect to see the occupied homes come back on the market, as more and more people become much more comfortable having people in their home.
We are bringing a few occupied homes on the market in the next couple of weeks. So yes,
and we wouldn't have been doing that 3-4 weeks ago.
No.
So that's kind of I think we've got rid of many of the unoccupied homes. They've already come on the market. Now we're looking really at the occupied homes that are going to come on over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and so when we're in the buyer confidence returns, you saw with the stats with May, an increasing number of homes coming on the market. I was actually incredibly surprised that our stats for May were very similar to last year, because May and June are typically the months where we see the largest amount of inventory coming on the market. And why is that? Because that's when sellers like to come on, because their gardens look beautiful. As I described before, though, when you're coming on, when everyone else is coming on, there's an awful lot of choice out there for buyers, and there's a lot more energy in the market the earlier part of a year. But having said that, because we're in a dynamically changing market right now is a fantastic time to come on, because we still haven't got the homes to satisfy the number of buyers out there. Ergo, 20 offers on a home today. Yeah.
And that's specifically those, certainly at that under 1.5 million price point. I think that's the key price point where there is certainly definitely a lack of inventory right now.
Yeah. Increased competition. As more homes come on the market, there'll be more and more sellers trying to chase those few buyers out, or those buyers that are out there. And I like to always characterize it a little bit when you talk about this. Let's say there's 20 buyers at a certain price point that are going to buy. And the first week, 5 of those buyers get homes. So now you've got 15 buyers left. And then over the next couple of weeks, 10 of those buyers have been successful buying homes. And now you're getting sort of further on down the track, you're losing buyers as each week goes by, because more and more of them are being successful. So the longer, I don't think I've described that very well.
Well, there were 43 homes that went under agreement. Of the homes listed in April and May, 43 of them are under agreement. In June, there's 43 people that don't need to buy a home because they already have.
That's a better way of saying that. Thank you.
Command of the English language, that's what I would say.
Okay,
that's what it is.
Yeah, no, just because you're a Brit doesn't mean you have a good... I'm an Australian, I have a good command. Anyway, get off that.
Good, but not great. Good, but not great.
What's critically important in this period? So, again, we come back to before this whole turmoil started, our normal seminar was on the 5 keys to maximize sales price. We have changed it because we're in these uncertain times. But the 5 keys, smart decisions, we went all about that at the beginning there, about here's what's going on with the market, here's what you need to know, here's what's happening with the buyers. We talk about preparation services, and we'll go into some of these moving forward, but we won't go into as deep with them as what we would normally go. Staging services, what does that look like? Because again, it's so important for those buyers when they walk in the door to have a positive visceral feel. What does marketing look like, especially in this time of coronavirus? And excellence through teamwork. Those 5 components will always get you the highest price for your home. So what do we mean by that? Preparation services. So at the moment, we've been doing virtual consultations, but we're progressively moving to on-site. We have Susan, our listing coordinator. She's been going into homes and meeting contractors in their occupied homes too, and getting quotes, helping to arrange getting quotes. I've been, since the beginning of May, I've been going into home after home after home, obviously with a mask on and gloves and all of this, because sellers were a little bit more comfortable during April them walking around the home with, doing a FaceTime. Now, with things starting to ease a little bit, they want us physically in the home to give them the advice on the highest return on investments projects. So I'm happy to do that because it makes sense. And we give advice on projects that aren't worth doing. There's no point spending money on something that the buyers won't pay more for your home if they're done. So and the type of advice, I always characterize it that I'm not going to suggest doing $2,000 worth of improvements, $2,000 worth of stuff just to get a $2,000 increase in sales price, because that's just busy work. There's no value in that. But I might suggest something that might cost $5,000 to do, and it might give you a $50,000 return. That's important stuff to do. And that was where during the lockdown it was a little bit more of a challenge to do those things in occupied homes. But with every seller, you decide on the level of assistance you'd like from us. We can just give you contractor resources if you like, or we can help with getting quotes organized. Some people, especially if they're working from home and the kids are at home, there hasn't been school and there won't be school, there's no summer camps. It is tough for people to coordinate their day to get contractors to come in and give assistance, to get quotes. And we'll help oversee the project in conjunction with the seller. The whole purpose is to have your home wow to the buyers. So here's just an example, a before and after. We've got just a couple of before and afters, but there's wallpaper on the wall. The floors are in rough shape, and we got the curtains down and we painted. And this just feels just so much nicer to the buyers. And the buyers are always willing to spend more money on it. But if you look at this, there's not much being done apart from paint and floors. So we're not renovating homes. Please, I've got to stress, we do not recommend renovating a home to come on the market. Here's an example of something that makes a difference. This is actually this photo here was of a home that had been on the market not selling for about 4 months with another agent, and the sellers got us in to talk to us about selling the home. And what I recommended is painting the kitchen cabinets. That's all we did, painting the kitchen cabinets. Oh, actually, they did replace some older appliances. But that was relatively inexpensive, didn't do anything else in the home. We had competing offers on that home. So this is all that just a little bit of paint and a couple of appliances didn't sell for 4 months with another agent, coming in with paint and competing offers. Paint always gets us the highest return on investment. Always, 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 always. Here's another one. Again, you'll see these are older cabinets. Granite's the same, appliances are the same, backsplash is the same. We just painted the cabinets, and we had competing offers on this home. And this was a home that came on the market at $1.7 million. So competing offers don't just happen on those homes that are under $1 million. They happen on homes where you're realistically priced and the buyers, it's staged, and the buyers come in and, oh, wow, look at this house. You know, this kitchen feels like it's new, and it wasn't. Here's something that a lot of folks don't realize is that if you've got an older bathroom that has, you know, your blue tiles, your green tiles, your orange tiles with the black stripes sometimes, you know, at the top, they paint up beautifully. So you can see there's still the tiles here and here. They've just been painted. And the wallpaper that was above here, that was taken down, and just a soft pastel, you know, an off-white color that tied in with the floors. So we didn't do anything in this bathroom apart from paint. And the buyers, this home had competing offers on it, because the buyers, even though the buyers know that it's dated, it's move-in ready. They think, yeah, we can move in, and we've got time to think about what we want to do to this bathroom, rather than, oh my goodness, we have to plan to renovate the bathroom before we do anything else. That's the difference. Here's another bathroom where it's got the tiles painted, but what I wanted to show you here, you may not be able to see too much, but see the vanity? It's got laminate, swirly sort of laminate counters and front. Here's that same vanity with paint on it. So you can paint laminate vanities, you can paint laminate counters, you can paint laminate. And again, this bathroom feels like it's fresh. And this one, you know, oh gosh, we've got to renovate. And here's another one. Now these are beautiful cherry cabinets. Beautiful, stunning bathroom, stunning master bathroom. But this is what the buyers are looking for. Because all of the builders are all building new construction homes with white cabinetry, off-white cabinetry. That's what they're all doing. So when a buyer walks into this bathroom, they're going to think, it's new construction. It has a new construction feel to it. And it's not just limited to inside. This is a home, this picture is a home of where a seller had tried selling it for sale by owner for about 8 months. Then they had an agent trying to sell the home for 12 months. Then they tried for sale by owner again for another 4 months, and then they called us in, and we suggested to, you know, take down the trees, but to paint the trim and paint the garage doors, because this doesn't appeal to people. This appeals to people. And we had competing offers on the home when it came on the market. So staging services. We thought we'd show you our truck. We even have a truck, you know, that
so if you see the truck, give us a wave.
Yeah, give us a wave. It's our movers. We have 2 guys that have been working with us for about 8 years. And they're contract movers, and they help us. We just leave things to them, and our stagers, you know, obviously work. But there's our dog. But there's our team in front of the truck when we got it wrapped. So the staging services, it is a virtual consultation. We have Christina or Seller. They go online, a FaceTime with the seller, or I'll go in and take a video around the home and then share it with them, and then they come up with a step-by-step, room by room, of suggestions of what we would recommend doing. But mainly depersonalize and declutter. That's so important. We want the home to be a vanilla home, because when a buyer walks in and they see evidence of the owner in the home, it's hard for them to imagine themselves living in the home, because there's evidence of the current owners all over the home. Whereas when it's depersonalized, they can walk in and they can sit on the sofa. We could put our sofa over there, or we could do this here. And they're imagining themselves living in the home, because there's no obvious people already living in the home. I know that sounds silly, but that's so important for, you know, that positive visceral feel when they walk in the door. So it's done by our in-house professional staging team. We have a full-time staging coordinator, and we have part-time stagers. And as you saw, we have our own moving truck. And each house is different because some houses are vacant. If it's a vacant house, we'll stage every room. If it's an occupied home, we'll go in with whatever the seller needs. When I say needs, let's say the seller has been living in the home and they don't have a dining room table, and yet there's a perfect spot for the dining room table because maybe they're using it as their office or something like that. We'll go in with a dining room table and set it up as a dining room, so that, because it's important for the buyers to understand how they would use the home, and having a standard layout. Whenever you see a listing that talks about a unique floor plan or a versatile floor plan, that's not a good thing. You want the buyers to be able to walk around the home understanding what each room is all about. And as we progress further and further into this buyer confidence returning phase, we're progressively lifting restrictions on staging occupied homes. In fact, as we were just talking about, we've got homes coming on in the next few weeks, and they're occupied homes, and we're going in and staging them. Some sellers have been moving to a second home, so the home becomes a vacant home, and it's easier for buyers to feel comfortable going into. But again, we're starting to find that buyers are not worrying about that so much, so that's less of a concern now. But here's an example of a staged home. This is a photo of when the home came on the market with another agent, and the home had very, very little furniture in it. The home didn't sell. Seller got us in. We came in and staged the whole home. Even though the seller was living there, there wasn't much furniture in the home. And this was a home priced at over 2.2 million, and we had competing offers on it. So they happen when the presentation of the home is there in the marketing, obviously. I mentioned it before, the home that was a for sale by owner for a few months on the market with an agent for a few months, for about 12 months, and then back with the seller trying to sell it. This photo here is what it, there was no staging. But if you notice this, the front door's up here. You had a room that you could sort of see would be the living room. And then you had a chandelier here, so this is the dining room. What's this room? The buyers would have walked through this and thought, I don't know what this house is. I don't understand this layout. So with coming in, we came in and we staged the room up the front as a living room. We staged the dining room as a dining room. And then we staged this room as a post or pre-dinner drinks room. With a bar and different, wine books and things like this, and a sofa and a chair. And this is that same home I talked about that had competing offers on the home, because the buyers walked in and, this really feels good. Whereas when it's vacant, they couldn't work out what they would use the rooms for. Here's another one. This is the difference of a vacant home with no furniture to what it looks like and feels like with some staging furniture in the home. That's a huge difference. Here's another one with, this is a marketing photo of a prior agent selling the home. Okay, it didn't sell, and here's a photo of us having gone in and staged the home. We had competing offers on the home. And it's not just for occupied homes or vacant homes. Here's new construction. This was a photo that we took just as the construction was just finishing. It looks fantastic, but with furniture in the home, It looks a heck of a lot better. Now this furniture, we have different style furniture for the different style homes. We have traditional style furniture. We have more modern contemporary furniture. And this particular home was a modern style, contemporary style home. So we had contemporary style furniture in the home. And it makes a huge difference. We didn't have competing offers on this one, but it came on the market at 2.7, and we had an offer on it 3 weeks later, which at that price point is typically a tough price point to be selling at. So now let's get on and let Marcus talk for a little bit. Finally, he says, yeah. Okay.
Marketing, but specifically digital marketing. As Danny mentioned before, the physical property brochures we used to print, people don't want them anymore. We took that print, we already had it in fact, it's now available virtually. So we've shifted everything into that digital framework, and that's kind of where everything is. So, and I need to queue up our website in a minute. So there we go. So what do we mean by marketing? You really, as I said before, you really do need to have everything in place. In our opinion, we had all of this in place, and in our opinion, we think every home deserves all of this, even before what we've been coming into. So everything you see there, with the exception of the virtual open house, which we didn't do, all of that we had prior to this.
5 years ago,
5 years ago
we
had all of this.
So it was easy for us to pivot with moving to virtual because we already were doing it.
Right. The only thing we added to the portfolio, if you like, is this virtual open house. That's the only thing we added to this. Does it matter? What I'll do in a minute, I'll take you through each of those, because what I want to do is show you the kind of marketing that we need for a home. But first of all, does it matter?
Oh yes. So, this is what we were talking about before. The virtual assets are key to selling in this market and getting the highest price. Where I was talking about before with the direct correlation, we for every seller, and we'll show examples of this moving forward, we create a listing dashboard where the seller can see real-time data of how many people are viewing the 3D tour, how many people are viewing the video, how many people are looking at the floor plan, how many people are looking at the online brochure, how many people are viewing the virtual open house. So we have all of that information and have had this for many years. And what we've seen in this market, in this particular market that we're in, is that there's a direct correlation between, if we talk about the number of views of, say, the 3D tour, when a home comes on the market, if we have 40 plus viewings of the 3D tour in the first couple of days, that's a really good sign. And with that really good sign, we're seeing, with about 40 plus for at least a couple of days, we're seeing probably 20 plus private showings happening for the home in, say, the 4 to 5 days that it was on the market. This one yesterday, where today, where we had 20 offers on it, it had 35 private showings in a 5-day period. And I don't know the specifics of how many 3D tour views, but we know it was more than 40 a day. But there's that direct correlation. And that direct correlation between the number of private showings and offers. We know if we're getting 20 plus more private showings happening, we're going to have offers. So it's the data tells us this. Did we mention that we have a data-driven approach to real estate? Maybe we should throw in that tagline.
Really? You think so? Somewhere in, let's make it our tagline. No.
It is.
So, marketing matters. So let's show you what kind of marketing we think people need to be seeing in this market. This is a website, single property website for one of the homes we have on the market at the moment. Actually, 300 Ave, new construction home here in Lexington. The idea behind this website is that this is a one-stop shop for everything about the home. If you have any questions about the home, you will probably find the answers here. And this is the first place that potential buyers are going. We saw the number of viewings of our websites go through the roof as soon as we weren't able to hold those virtual open house, or those open houses, excuse me. We saw website views go through the roof, and it's continued. Even though we're coming out of this, now people are used to seeing all of the information about a home in a single location. So it's key. And the idea behind the website is to provide a logical way for people to see the property. You don't just want to put 25 photos up there in some random order. You actually want to lead them by the hand as if they're walking around the home, and that's exactly what we do. So here's the information about the home, much more detail here in terms of lot size, the heating system, and so on. But then we have a set of narrative walking you through the home, starting here at the outside, and then interspersed in that narrative we include photographs. So here, for example, you can see the photographs of the outside, and here we are coming into the foyer of the home. And so we walk the potential buyer through the home. Here's the kitchen, lots of photographs of the kitchen, get to see it from every angle. So there's nothing hidden here. Buyers want to see, consumers want to see, actually. It's not just buyers of homes, it's consumers in general want to see all the information about a product that they are looking to buy. They want to make that, yes, this is something I'm interested in before I go take a look at it. Be it a car or be it a home, the same thing applies. They're not window shopping anymore. For now anyway, those days are gone. So here we have the narrative. Here's the eating kitchen, the casual dining, into the family room and so on. So there we have that kind of narrative interspersed with photographs of, in this case, the bedroom, and then finally here, this is the basement and the backyard. Some property highlights, and then the key piece here is the 3D tour. If you think about the website, the video, we do a lot of different aspects of this. We're really the director. We really tell you how you should view the home. This product allows the consumer to decide how they want to view the home. Let me pop that in full screen mode. So here we are, same home in 3 Underwood. Now you can look around. Now, what does it look like? What is the view from the fireplace looking through that family room into the casual dining, and then the kitchen? Maybe I want to go down to the basement. Well, I can do that. The basement is here. Here's the entrance to the basement. I can go down into the basement if I want. Perhaps I want to go upstairs and look at the bedrooms. I can do that. I can navigate around this however I want to navigate around it. It's entirely up to the consumer in terms of how they look at this home. And remember, even if there is an open house, it's very likely that there'll be a minimum, maximum amount of time they'll be able to see the home. Could be 10, 15 minutes, probably at max. So they're going to get a very limited opportunity to look at this home. What this lets them do is spend as long as they like in the home, looking in all aspects. Here's the master bedroom, for example. So they can spend as long as they want in this home, instead of that very restrictive 10 minutes to let the next group of people in, which is very difficult for buyers to get a feel for the home. If they feel they're being stressed and they're having to rush through the home, this allows them to look through the home at their leisure. So there's the 3D tour. You can also look at the floor plan. We go to floor 3. If I hit the right button, that would help. Here's floor 3. Give you a sense here. Here's the master bedroom. Here's the bathroom, and so on. Giving you a sense of what's where within that home, allowing you to see that.
The scale, perspective of each room.
A floor plan with furniture. We have a schematic floor plan too, but this shows you the floor plan with the furniture actually in the home. So that's kind of key to do that. Danny likes the dollhouse view. I need to show you all the floors to do that. There we go. Which gives you a sense of what's over what rooms over what. It looks better on a small home. This is quite a large home actually, but it gives you a sense of what room is over what room.
What the layout
is.
Yeah.
So that's the 3D tour. We think it's hugely powerful. lots and lots of people viewing those. As Danny said, we track the numbers of people who view these. This number has been increasing since. It's always been high. We've been doing these for about 5 years now. I think 5 years in August, I think. Yep. So it's almost our 5th year of doing it. And so we're able to track people watching, looking at these, and that's definitely increased as we move forward. As well as that, of course, we have a video of the home. We do a couple of videos. Actually, I should probably show you the real videos. These are kind of fun. This is of another home, but let me give you a quick... Oh no, it's actually of Underwood. Let me show you what this one looks like. The idea here is that we're actually showing you the home. Let me bring the volume down just slightly and I can kind of talk it over. Here again, we're the director. We're kind of showing you what it's like to be in that home. A better view than you get from photographs, but really not as good as you get from the 3D tour, in my opinion. So that's kind of that's the video that we do of each of the homes. As well as that, we do a kind of fun video. Remember that many people are viewing these homes now on social media, and we're looking to get something that attracts people on social media. To do that, what we do is we have Sudo. He was barking before. I'm surprised he hasn't been up to see what we're doing up here. It's usually what he does when we're doing one of these. But what we do here is we actually put a GoPro. This was for a different home. We put a GoPro on his back. And we get him to walk around the home, and it kind of cute, yes, but we're looking to get people to think, oh, this is interesting. Get that and kind of viral view. Start sharing it. Remember that right underneath us, of course, is guess what? A link to click to go to the single property website. So that's in there too as well. So we're always taking people back to that single property website, and we get lots of people looking at this, lots of sharing of these. But then guess what? The next thing they do is they click to take a look at the single property website, or share it with a friend who guess what? See,
oh yeah, it's a walk-in closet for his dog outfits. I mean, Glenn, our marketing coordinator, does this, and he is so good at. I mean, he thinks. I was going to say he thinks like a dog. No, but he's imagining what the dog would be saying.
There we go. So there we go. So that's kind of just a sense of the kind of videos that we do. In this one, you can see that here's the property video. Here's our property brochure. So we don't print it anymore. You can actually download the version online if you want to. Here's our schematic floor plan. So we still produce it, giving that kind of feel for the home, a luxury feel for the home with a glossy brochure. We just don't print it today. We may get back to that soon enough, but today we don't print it. And then to kind of finish it off, we like to position the home in relation to the schools, as well as in association or in position in terms of the public transport. So that's kind of a one-stop shop for everything about the property. I mean, that's kind of what it is. And as I say, we are getting huge views of these, much more than we did previously, but even though we're coming out of this, it's still continuing. The number of views is still continuing, which is key. So that's kind of one aspect of the market. Well, more than one aspect, I guess a few aspects of the marketing. The other one really now is social media. The idea here around social media is getting the property out to a broad group of people who may be interested in buying this home, or may know somebody who's interested in buying this home. And that's really where social media comes in. We do a number of listings for Home Coming Soon, Just Listed, Home of the Week, looking to get that property out there in front of a large number of people. You need high quality photographs. I didn't really talk about high quality photographs, professional photography, but that's the showcase. That's the showcase. I am finished.
Okay,
I took a breath. I took a breath. No, I took a breath.
I was going to say, we had an agent, a buyer's agent of one of our listings, one of our homes that's under agreement. We had 6 offers on it in Arlington, and he called today because he wants to do. He's got a home coming on the market, and he thought our photos and our 3D tour and everything was so professional. He wanted to know which company we used because it was the best he's seen. We do them in-house. We've got professionals
We do
doing
them
them
in-house.
in-house.
Yeah, we have professional marketers
So
in-house.
I was just going to jump to
Sounds
that
good,
because
yeah.
that was an amazing comment from
Yeah.
you know, from another agent. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I changed your train of thought.
No, you didn't. No, social media, high quality photographs. If you don't have high quality photographs, people don't even look at the adverts. That's the bottom line. So you really, unless you have that in place and lots of them of high quality, people, it's just going to skim past them on their newsfeed. So social media, it's about going broad. Having gone broad, now of course the next aspect of it is to go.
It's coming in narrow.
There we go, with targeted email. We used to do open houses. We haven't. We will do them again, I'm sure, pretty soon. Certainly this year, not quite the same as we did previously, but certainly we will be back into the open house business, I'm sure, as our buyers say, hey, I want to view homes.
Yeah.
We keep track of buyers who have come to prior open houses, and once we know they're interested in a 3-bedroom home under 1 million in Lexington, or a, between 1 and 1.5. Once we have another home coming on the market, guess what? We target them with, hey, you came to this open house, you may of course be interested in this home too. So we go broad with social media, then we go very narrow, very targeted with targeting email. That's key. That's the next aspect.
Because the whole thing is when you look at selling a home, it's all about the ratios. Let's just say 1 out of every 10 people who sees the home is going to fall in love with the home. If you've only gotten it out to 10 people, you might only have 1 person who's fallen in love with the home. Using those same ratios, if you've gotten this information out to 100 buyers who have seen the home, then using those same ratios, there's 10 buyers going to be falling in love with the home. So the more people we can get in the door, and at the moment it's virtually, which then, as I said, direct correlation between the number of private showings, but the more people we can get in the door, the higher the activity on the home when it comes to offers.
Right. So that's 4 out of 5 keys to getting the highest price for your home. We talked about smart decisions, preparation, staging, marketing, kind of done all of that. And the last piece, of course, is around teamwork, and in terms of what we offer as a team to you, a potential consumer.
And we normally talk about this and go into this in a bit more detail, but I think, we've got to be cognizant of the fact that people are more interested at the moment about what's happening in the market from a buying and selling perspective. But to just give you a bit of an overview, the client that we work with is the center of our universe. They're the center of our universe. And we have a listing coordinator whose job is to bring your home on the market in conjunction with the agent and do everything that needs to be done. We have a marketing coordinator. His job, you've seen some of the things that he does to get your home out there. The social media ad campaigns, things like this. We have a staging coordinator. Her job is to present your home as well as it can be presented. Preparation of the home. Again, we've got a team that can help us with those things, and we've got a closing coordinator who helps once the home is at under agreement phase, that helps the agent take it through to closing. But the key component of that is the clients, the center of our universe. Everything that we're doing is focused on taking the stress off the client and doing everything we can to get the highest price.
Okay.
Okay. Now you can talk for a while.
Okay, so that was all about selling. Okay, let's get it. Now let's talk a little bit about buying in 2020. Same idea, when and how. A lot of this will kind of be reiterated from what Danny mentioned. You've seen this graph before. This is kind of the when. We're now in that buyer confidence return phase. We're very much in the middle of that. I think when we do this presentation again, that graph will have changed dramatically as the number of open houses increases, and so does the number of private showings as well. So the how. There still is, even as we come out of this kind of restricted showings. Some towns preventing showings of occupied homes, that will begin to lift in now as we're in phase 2. of the reopens that came yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
And we also had the situation where some buyers agents were not willing to accompany showings. I've had to show homes for a buyer's agent who wasn't willing to accompany that showing. Be prepared to some extent for some scary situations. We did have a situation where a buyer's agent went into a home anticipating
one of our buyer's agents
right, expecting the home to be unoccupied, to find that no, it wasn't unoccupied. It was chock-a-block with people. It was actually full. So we've had situations that were just that, a little bit scary. So be prepared for that as you're thinking about showings and what restricted showings actually mean. Gloves and masks required in all at all times when you go into properties. Although we're getting used to that. I got my haircut today with a mask on, which was kind of interesting. But there we go. I have no idea how that's supposed to work.
My haircut's coming, I hope.
There we go. So we're clearly getting back to normal because I managed to get a haircut today. So there we go. And Suda gets a haircut tomorrow. So we're definitely back to normal. We're getting back to normal anyway. But remember, you do have a range of options available to you. You do have the ability to start looking at sellers' disclosures, where they exist, 3D tours. We're being asked all the time, where are the 3D tours? Does it have a 3D tour?
By the buyers we're working with.
By the buyers we're working with.
Other people's listings, because ours always have them.
And we did have the situation, not very often, and this is really history of buyers making not being able to do private showings before they submitted that offer. Those days are gone. It really didn't, as far as we were concerned, it was just not tenable. Why would you buy a home? Why would you buy a motor car without actually seeing it if you can't send it back after 7 days? So why would you buy a home where there's no return period on a home? Oh, I don't really like it. I didn't see it before I bought it. I don't really like it. Please, can I have my money back? That exists for cars. It doesn't exist for homes, of course. And so it really is, I think, a combination of virtual plus restricted private showings. That's really the way many people are viewing homes. Remembering those private showings can be of limited duration, though, 10, perhaps 15 minutes, if it's a very popular home. That's key.
And it's also what needs to be stressed is that sometimes our MLS doesn't. So when an agent puts an open house in on a home in MLS, they might put in the comments of the open house that it's make appointments only. It's an appointment only open house. But then you've got all of the real estate aggregators like Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com, ColdwellBanker.com, Remax.com, all of those pull that information about those open houses, but they don't pull the comments. So it looks like it's a real open house, and the buyer turns up and there's they're not allowed in, or there's a 5-minute gap between that scheduled showing and this scheduled showing, so they're allowed 5 minutes to get in and out and things. So at the moment, physical open houses are a bit of a challenge, and there aren't as many people going to them. So until we start seeing a lot more buyer activity at physical open houses, I think we won't be doing them. Because remember, if you're a seller, and I'm putting the seller hat on here, and you've got a buyer who's turned up to go and see a home thinking that they're going to be allowed to get in and see that home at an open house, they didn't know that it was scheduled, you've got to schedule it and make an appointment, and they turn up and they're only allowed 5 minutes in the home, or they're turned away and saying, I'm sorry, there's no time for you. Guess what you don't have with that home? You don't have that buyer any longer, because they're so annoyed at the fact that they made the effort to go and have a look at that home at the open house and the agent wouldn't let them in. So that's the worst thing you can do.
And it's a real work. It really is a work in progress. As Danny said, you can put that it's a virtual open house in the comments. MLS system, you can actually tag it as a virtual open house. The challenge is, once it gets to Zillow and Redfin and all the rest of those sites, that's lost.
That's gone.
So it was a great idea, but where most people view is there or is there not an open house, all of that
Those
detail
real
is
estate
just gone.
aggregators.
In
Yeah.
fact, the first virtual open house we did, I turned up to do the virtual open house to find a car in the driveway. Oh, when's the open house? It was very difficult because I was just there. I couldn't let them in the home because I had to do this virtual open house.
Because it was going
Right.
to be streaming
Yeah,
live.
it was just me there. So it was a very difficult situation. Not getting much better. I think over time it might. I think what will happen, in fact, reality is open houses
They will
come
be
back.
physical open
They will
houses.
come back the way they were
Yeah.
previously, and we'll have less restrictions on how many people can go into the home. I think that will happen before we'll actually get to grips with this problem. We'll revert to business as usual. So that's restricted showings. That's where we are. Restricted inspections too. Some inspectors not allowing buyers to attend. Now, I did an inspection 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago perhaps now, where only the inspector and one other person was allowed in.
I had a situation with a home that we put under agreement that for my sellers, and it was about 2 weeks ago, and the inspector insisted he wasn't going to do the inspection unless the house had been unoccupied for 2 weeks. And it was an occupied home. Luckily, our sellers were living somewhere else
Right.
at the time, but he wasn't going to do that inspection if there had been anyone in the home in the prior 2 weeks. Wouldn't even let his buyers in the home as well. Do you remember that?
Strange situation.
Yeah.
So be prepared for some strange situations, as it were. If you're not allowed in the home, or perhaps only one party is allowed in the home, you're going to have to get used to reading the inspection, which is just photos, perhaps a video, and a phone consultation. The challenge with that is there's a huge amount of extra information that you get in an inspection. It's a huge amount of just comments the inspector will make about certain things. Just for example, how do you change the filter in the air conditioning system? You're clearly not going to get that in the report, but it's just one of those things that the inspector will comment as you're walking around. So you really do need to have confidence really in that extended team that you have around you. Relying on them, is this the right home to buy? I'm going to get limited access to the home. Perhaps the buyer's agent's not only just going to open the front door, the inspector not allowing you to intend. It takes a certain degree of confidence in that extended team that you have around you to actually be able to do that kind of, to buy that home essentially, as it turns out. I should say that there's an awful lot of detail around buying in this market. This is just a quick synopsis, probably 5 or 6 slides. I think on Thursday, myself and Rachel Ladies on the MA Properties Online team are going to do a whole hour and a half around buying in this market. So this is just a synopsis. So if you're at all interested in what does it mean to buy in this market in a lot more detail, Rachel and I will be going through the buyer's seminar, if you will. We're going to do that live stream it. Hopefully the 3 platforms.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do the 3 platforms. I've got confidence. Probably because I'm going to be in my office here. We'll do that on Thursday. So if you're interested in that. Anyway, so after I gave a shameless plug for our buyer's seminar, what does financing in this market mean? I talked a little bit about this previously. There is the potential for higher credit scores being required, a little bit more scrutiny over loan to value, and some restrictions on jumbo loans. As the banks begin to try and get to grips with what is the housing market going to be moving forward. I think we're somewhat lucky in Massachusetts in that we do have a strong market. I was listening to a presentation being given by a Florida agent a few days ago, in fact, and what he said, which was kind of a little bit scary thinking about the Florida market, he said that he had put every agent on his team through the foreclosure training because he anticipated there were going to be a large number of foreclosures in the area. I don't think we're in that situation, but clearly the banks are thinking that way. What if there are a large number of foreclosures? Certainly Florida, this region in Florida anticipated it may well be happening there. And so it's, that's their thinking. So they are beginning to kind of tighten those lending requirements just because they don't quite know what's coming along. I don't think we'll get into that situation in Massachusetts. We never did have the degree of foreclosures, even in the 2008 crash. So we're not going to get back to that. But I thought it was quite telling when this agent said that, yes, it won't affect us in Massachusetts, but it is beginning to affect the way the banks begin to think about lending to buyers on a national level. We also have the situation, we've not seen this play out yet, but it's possible that some of the appraisals were just drive-by appraisals. They didn't actually go in the home. This will change as we move forward. What that means, of course, is there is that potential for lower appraisals because they're just beginning, just seeing the outside. The listing agents isn't able to meet them, explain what happened with the sale, explain the home, show them some comparable properties. So the appraisals are getting less information, and it's possible that those appraisals will come in at a lower number. Time will tell whether that's the case.
Yeah, which is key as well when we talk about the 3D tour and the videos and all of those sorts of things. It's easier for an appraiser to understand what's in the home when they've got those digital assets to look at. A lot of times some homes, and these are not ours, some homes go under agreement and there's 10 photos. So how does an appraiser work out what's in the home when there's just 10 photos? So this is, and if you're a seller and and your agent is just doing 10 photos or 20 photos or 30 photos and nothing else, that can come back to bite you later when it's time for the appraisal. One of the things that I'm stressing now with the listings, with the homes that we're selling and we've got competing offers on, is one of the clauses I want added to the offer is that it's not subject to appraisal, because of the fact that that a lot of the appraisers are doing drive-by appraisals and there's a potential for the lower appraisal. I want my sellers protected so that it's not subject to it appraising at purchase price, because if I can't meet them, if I can't meet the appraiser there, go into the home, all of that sort of stuff, then there is more of a risk of a lower appraisal. So I want that covered in the offer.
Sure. So, quick synopsis, we're almost done. That was kind of, about buying in this market. Shameless plug again, Thursday. Be there or be square. If you want to know all about buying, Rachel and I will open up the Pandora's box in all its glory of buying in this market. We'll talk a little bit about the stats as well, specifically from a buyer's perspective. This was kind of a generic talk about the stats. So sit through the stats because the good stuff comes afterwards if you've already sat through the stats here. So buying and selling in this market. So in terms of virtual home selling, anticipate more virtual consultations, whatever it may be, perhaps even a virtual market analysis in this market. The seller walking around with a FaceTime, showing them about the home. There's a potential for that. Everything's electronic in terms of electronic signatures. What we're rolling out over the next, we already have this, we're rolling out an app. We have an app pretty soon. We'll have an app. Which is talking about
next week or something, I think.
Next week,
it's being promised.
Yeah, it's been promised. I know. Trust me, I'm almost done with the testing. It is almost there. We have an app which is going to give you that listing dashboard that Danny talked about. We already have a listing dashboard.
But it's a website.
It's a website. Now we're going to kind of flip that over, so it's much more convenient for the end users to look at. This is just some screen grabs I did a day or two ago to show you what that listing dashboard would look like. On the left, it's what it looks like for the pre-listing. That is all the steps we go through getting your home on the market. And then Danny talked a lot about understanding what's happening in terms of how many views you see and so on. That's the graph that you see at the bottom.
And that's pretend data. We don't do 77 views of the 3D tour after 5 days when we've only done 33. Anyway, I'm facetious. I'm being facetious. His testing data.
Yes. So everything's digital. I talked a lot about the digital marketing that you see. Expect that the showings will have some restrictions, and everything has been e-recorded at the registry. So that's kind of virtual home selling. Buying, very similar. Virtual consultation, a lot of digital marketing. We have a buying dashboard as well. No surprise. There it is. As you've viewed the property, so you've made accepted offer on the property. Excuse me. So you can kind of see exactly the steps that are going through, when's the walkthrough, and so on. So that's all there. A lot more detail there as well. That's test data as well,
yes.
As you can see, because it's written in Latin, darling.
The Laura Mitzer.
Much as the Queen's English I don't do Latin. I never. They tried when I was a schoolboy, but that wasn't going to happen. So, say everything electronic in terms of the registry too. So with that,
we are done. If you've got any questions, we didn't get any during the session. I'm sure if you've got any questions or you think of something afterwards, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, we're really sorry that
we were late.
Well, we were late because we weren't on Twitch or Facebook because the streaming software had some glitches, and we were scrambling, just moving around and all of that sort of stuff. But we settled down and gave you the information that we were.
Apparently, we pivoted.
So
more of a panic than a pivot, but that's okay.
Anyway, we want to say thank you for joining us. Please stay safe, and please think about the Black Lives Matter. I mean, that's so important these days. Not these days. It's so important, and it's becoming getting more profile, a higher profile, which is what it needs. But that's my one political comment.
Oh, there we go. Okay, with that.